Blake Lively is rewriting history and new court documents revealed over the weekend. We're going to dive into what you guys think about all of this as we discuss Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. Hey folks, it's Dave Neal here, host of the Rush Hour podcast. Now, as you guys know, I do a morning episode, I do an afternoon episode, and when I have time with an 11-month-old baby and he's taking a nap, I try to get you guys a midday episode. And by the way, shout out to my pal Zach for this Daddy Sleuth shirt right here. It's very nice, Daddy Sleuth. He's got a charity he's doing, 50% he's donating to charity, and I'm actually going to share the link to that if you guys want. He's got a merch shop for those mommy and or daddy sleuths. All right, I'm going to get into exactly what Blake said. I mean, hundreds of pages of documents came out over the weekend. We don't have time to sift through every single one, but I'm going to share some great thoughts from different content creators that are breaking it down, as Jed Wallace is now saying he had life-threatening issues, a heart incident because of the stress of Blake Lively serving him papers. Now, hey, you know, what can you do, right? If he did something wrong, he should be held liable for it. But if he did nothing wrong, this is terrible for his mental health and physical health, really. So we're going to dive into, because, you know, he's a small business owner, but he's nothing compared to the Leviathan that is the Reynolds Mint Mobile money. So we're going to jump into all of this right now. I wanted to share my pal Lauren and what she had to say. She's done a fantastic job covering on YouTube and all over social media, really. Here she is on Twitter posting, "Of note, Blake Lively exposed Jed Wallace's health condition in her Texas filing. His private health information was rightfully redacted in the New York court." So what, was there a slip up? Why would she share this? Let's have a listen.
When combing through the 800 pages of mess Blake Lively filed in Texas last night, it appears that Jed Wallace's health condition was outed. Now, Jed Wallace had the New York court rightfully redact his private health information, but Blake Lively and her attorney said, "Nah, we don't really care." Apparently, he has heart problems and there was some sort of cardiac event or cardiac health issue related to the stress surrounding this case. Good one, Blake. You're an asshole.
You know, I specifically don't like to listen or watch these before I play them, just so I can be, you know, as in the moment as I love that. Good. Congrats, you're a dick. Very good. Okay, so now we've got Leanne over here. I'm going to share Leanne Newton. I mean, she's like the Chat GPT of these court cases. She just spits out all of the facts and digests it in a way. So this is Blake Lively's response to Jed Wallace's lawsuit. Now, you know, some people go, "Oh, we don't care as much about Jed Wallace because he's not the famous person. We care about Justin Baldoni." But listen, he's got every much of a right to defend himself and fight for his, for his brand and for his reputation, if it's true that he did nothing wrong here. So she goes like point by point into it. The first issue that angers me, the complete reframing of the birthing scene, which was described as having added unscripted nudity. It completely deviates from the phrase "nearly nude," which is how Lively frames her scene in her complaint in New York lawsuit. She's even walked that back in her motion to dismiss against Wayfair. So yes, that's right. She's changing the way. So again, this is where in the thumbnail here I said Blake rewrites history. This is what's going to be picked apart by people. They're going to notice the changing of legal language, the changing of descriptions of what happened. So here we have, she talks about adding graphic content to the script, including multiple new scenes with nudity, an on-camera orgasm, and added unscripted nudity to a birthing scene for which he cast his friend as Miss Lively's OBGYN. Now, as we know, that friend he cast is a Shakespearean actor. That's what you do. You take acting classes with people, you learn who you can trust, and then when it comes time to casting someone, you cast people that you've already vetted, either by audition process or scene study partners or people in your improv troupe. That's just the way it works, right? What's interesting here is the mention of an on-camera orgasm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that orgasm would have been her younger version of herself. So it appears as though Blake is taking offense to things they had the younger version of Blake do. Like she's so afraid of her own image that she thinks that if they make the younger, it's almost like if they have an older version of Blake played by, I don't know, Helen Mirren, and that version of Blake has good sex with a Richard Gere, I don't know, a boy can dream, it's in my head. Well, then Blake Lively's going to be upset because Helen Mirren has an orgasm. Again, I'm just alleging this. I don't know what Helen Mirren's doing with Richard Gere or what they're not doing. They can start an OnlyFans channel for all I care. I'll subscribe. But the point is that you can't just be upset that they added an orgasm scene to, and who cares if it's in the book or not in the book? This is their creative liberty. And, earlier she talked about how that this character was an underage character played by a 25-year-old. And I hate to break it to Blake, but underage characters have orgasms. And I understand, the need to make sure that people are protected, and that's what the intimacy coordinators are for, but it's not her beef. It's not her battle, right? So anyway, let's continue here. But I found, you could pick apart every single page. There's one thing after another. Blake Lively framed Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney's response on behalf of the parties she publicly accused of harassment, amongst other things, as defamatory. So Leanne says, I don't know what happened here, whether Friedman did leak the complaint to TMZ to get ahead of the New York Times article, or the Lively's camp got the response and leaked it to the TMZ to accuse Friedman of being the leak. My guess is Brian Friedman leaked it to TMZ. That's as Chris from Reputation 911 explained, crisis PR manager. If a story is coming out, it's, leaking it to a competitor will take the wind out of the sails. It'll take the punch out of that initial story, and it'll pull traffic from it, sort of weakening the story. It's not an illegal thing to do, right? Either way, Wayfarers are entitled to respond to the allegations against them, especially given they were made public. She's being ridiculous to suggest that there was anything defamatory. Friedman is also able to make this statement in response to the public allegations. The next day, several press outlets reported on the complaint, but leading the race was TMZ, which included a defamatory statement from Friedman on behalf of plaintiffs. So they're accusing him of defamation. Now, will he get sued for defamation? I don't think so. It would take a lot for them to sue the attorney of the client you're suing for defamation. But I'm sure there are legal ways that could happen. And I don't know the specifics as to whether Brian Friedman had violated that. My guess is he walks a very tight line here, but doesn't cross it. So then she continues, Lively made public what is very likely the medical issue Wallace redacted in his motion to dismiss against her lawsuit. They say technically she hasn't done anything wrong procedurally, as the protective order applies to the New York lawsuit only, and this is a Texas filed lawsuit. Morally, most fair-minded and reasonable people would, knowing he didn't want this information public, agree to abide by the spirit of the order. And then Leanne goes, I don't swear often and try hard to keep rational in what I write, but Lively is a mega T word. Rhymes with brought or brat, depending on if you're British or not, twat. It's a dick move, plain and simple. So we have multiple people calling Blake Lively the A word, a-hole, dick. People are like, dude, this is really messed up. Yeah, as far as helping your PR image, this ain't doing it. Lively made a massive deal of the attempts at service. She made a brief attempt to serve him, so she has to get someone to show up to him, find him, and serve him, to give him the papers. Lively's team then states they received a text from Friedman's law firm confirming they would accept service and requested Lively stop attempting to serve him. So, this happened with me when I was getting sued by this crazy woman, who I believe to be crazy. Don't sue me again. Where my lawyer said, hey, you're spending $600 a day trying to serve Dave. I'll accept service. You can just email me whatever you're filing him with. So Baldoni's, Brian Friedman does the same thing. He confirmed that his firm was not acting on behalf of Wallace, and he was not aware that anyone had said otherwise. Interesting. A junior lawyer or administrative staff made a human error, and now Lively is trying to exploit it. That's their guess. Who knows which it was? But so they're trying to serve Wallace. He's in a gated community. The process server received a text message from an associate. The law firm Liner Friedman will accept service for him. Do not try to serve him again. Thank you. But then later, Brian Friedman says, my office never agreed to that. Again, who knows? Big law firm. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't. Lively takes a statement that Brian Friedman made to the New York federal court about his own clients and tries to apply it to Jed Wallace. So the amended complaint included to dismiss the California action. After seeing your case management order and just for the efficiencies of the case, it kind of made no sense to be doing this on different coasts and with different courts. It seemed that so many of the issues are going to be so similar that we have to get it all into one proceeding. Accordingly, including based on Friedman's representations to the first filed court and for judicial economy, the very next morning, Ms. Lively filed a notice of non-suit with prejudice in favor of adding Wallace and Street to the New York litigation. So, look, this thing is so complicated, at least to idiots like me, that you've got West Coast versus East Coast, and then Midwest in the middle of it, right? Or Texas doesn't count as Midwest. Whatever the hell. Texas is its own thing. Don't get mad at me, Texas. I'm sorry. Last week I had Detroit and Missouri coming after me. Now we got Texas. Again, Leanne shares this. Evasive tactics, anticipatory tactics, and forum shopping. This is how Lively frames a man not getting served due to a life-threatening medical emergency using evasive tactics. Now, it's true that when someone's attempting to serve you, a lot of times you'll dodge serving. Like, you don't want to be served, you know? When I was getting served paperwork, I was like going to a stand-up comedy show, and it's like, I don't want to get served. I don't want people to know I'm here. I don't want to post on social media. You feel like you're being harassed. The court, nor should the court permit plaintiffs to avoid the first-to-file rule and reward their evasive tactics, anticipatory filings, and forum shopping. A party engaged in bad faith by inducing an opposing party to delay filing of a lawsuit so that he could file a preemptive lawsuit. So they're saying we couldn't find him and we couldn't serve him, so he was just waiting for him to get his ducks in a row. Again, it's just like one thing after another, and this is just wild to go through. Plaintiff's desperate theory that someone would see the caption of legal filings and believe that all defendants' respondents' names in the caption have engaged in each of the causes of actions listed is unreasonable. Lively is seeking the sexual harassment privilege against Wallace. This one's crazy. She tried to seek that privilege against Justin Baldoni, which would mean, hey, any file he makes against me is in retaliation because I filed against him. But what the hell would Jed Wallace have to do with a harassment claim? He's never met her. I guess she's claiming that whatever work he may have been doing, the untraceable work, would have counted as harassment or retaliation. Plaintiffs must plead actual malice, and again, that's what she's going to have to find out is what does she have on Jed? Now, remember, Jed Wallace is the only person to do an affidavit saying, I didn't do these things, it didn't happen, period. He signed it. If he's lying through his teeth and they find out, he could be arrested for perjury. So you got to believe when someone does a affidavit, they're probably telling the truth, unless they're Laura Owens, who's been, credibly, found guilty of lying. Miss Lively believed when she filed the complaint and believes now that plaintiffs engaged in a retaliatory social media campaign to harm her for speaking out about the harassment and hostile workplaces she endured at the hands of plaintiffs' partners Baldoni, Wafer, and Heath. So those aren't really strong words to me, that she believes this. It's like, okay, but where's the proof, So it goes on and on and on. Leanne just really did a great job. Go follow her on Twitter. The complaint is 81 pages and 233 paragraphs long and replete with evidence, including text messages, email images, demonstrating a serious and deliberative pre-filing investigation, the opposite of negligence. So yeah, they're claiming $1 million in damages. Leanne says to describe the complaint as replete with evidence is a bigger stretch than the Dangyang Kunshang Grand Bridge. And again, provides a GIF of this bridge. Wow, that is a very nice bridge. Great visual right there. Lively makes a reasonable, good argument. So here we have, all right, it's going to be fair. Here we have, and this is what I love about Leanne's coverage is when you're fair, I think, it's not all one-sided, right? Somebody might have some evidence. Let's just go through it. Blake highlights that Wallace himself confirms a link to California through his work and the location of his clients and their businesses. I'm not convinced it's enough for a jurisdiction argument, but it's her most reasonable argument so far against Wallace. I gave her a single clap for effort. All right, so they give her one clap for effort, and that's because she was able to link that he had business in L.A. Again, he moved his business to Texas, but you know how it is. I mean, you're working in PR. You're in New York. You're in L.A. You got to be in both places. Leanne says, I thought that the first sentence of the conclusion was over the top and dramatic. After engaging in a retaliatory social media campaign against Miss Lively, plaintiffs now seek to drag her into a foreign court that lacks jurisdiction in an attempt to further punish her for privileged communication. So yeah, I don't know. Is this court trying to punish Blake Lively, or is she receiving the consequences of her actions? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Leanne says this. That filing with all attachments was over 800 pages long. This thread took a total of 16 hours to read, research, and write. I really resent Lively for doing this. I believe she is doing it in some part to frustrate Wallace's case against her. That means she's racking up his costs to his lawyers who have to read and respond. If she awarded her costs, she's racking hers up so if a cost order is awarded, he's stuck with that bill too. Some of the attachments will be relevant, but a lot I didn't feel were or had already been filed and could have been referred to in the body of the response. Well, so the accusation Leanne's making here, and again, great stuff, is Leanne saying, that Blake Lively, it's like when you play poker and you've got all this money where you can just bet your whole hand because even if you lose, you just throw more money into it. It's, she's saying that's what Blake Lively's doing here. They're sticking their finger in the wound. They're saying, drop your case against us. Here's an 800-page filing. And I mean, imagine, I spent $10,000 like that over a couple emails with a lawyer and, a harassment lawsuit. I can't even imagine how much. I mean, this is the type where you're all of a sudden out of money, and then what does, Jed do? I don't know if he's got a family, but it's like, do you leverage the mortgage on the home, or do you just say, I can't afford this anymore? So many people can't afford the legal system that they end up bowing out. Now, my hope is if you're Justin Baldoni's side, you contact Jed Wallace and you go, let's get you some of that Steve Sarowitz money, because you need to have that type of money to defend yourself against all of this. It's absolutely wild stuff. All right, well, there's my update right now. Coming up next, I'm going to have the afternoon rush where I'm going to share a Taylor Swift and Blake Lively update. I'll have that in the afternoon rush. Plus, we'll be discussing the insane stock market world that's happening. And if you want some more pop culture news, later this week, I'll be interviewing one of the stars of $1 Million Secret. Is that what it's called? The new Netflix show. It's an absolutely fun reality show. I'll be covering that. And if you haven't already, lastly, check out my Instagram or TikTok that is covering this Bachelor Clayton Gabby situation. I've got the video right here with I have my response right here. Gabby, the former Bachelorette, went off on Clayton, making fun of his appearance, his dancing, really taking one to the jugular right there. And I offer my response, which is a resounding, go F yourself, Gabby. And again, you can catch that on Instagram. My Instagram is, let's see here, The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. We've got our social media team working heavily to get these reels up, but that's at The Rush Hour with Dave Neal. Or on TikTok, you can find that by searching D Neals here. What is this? Oh my gosh. I got crazy. TikTok's crazy. I got crazy things popping up. Wow. Movie scenes. So anyway, my TikTok is right here, D Neals. Oh, I don't even follow myself? What's up with that? So you can go catch all those reels, Baldoni updates and everything over there. We're trying to get to 10,000 followers to make up for the fake TikTok that was outperforming the real guy. Daddy Sleuth, link in the comment section below if you want to go get the merch. I think half of the proceeds go to charity. That's for Zach Peter. Not me, not associated with it, but helping out my pal Zach Peter. Daddy Sleuth right here. All right, we'll be back with the Rush Hour coming next.